Hey everyone, my name is Mike Laginski and I'm one of the directors at Elspark. Today I put together a very short presentation with some ideas on how to gauge with early adopters. I based that presentation on two key articles and I've attached the link here. I really encourage you to read Kimberly's. She has some great research in there and some great examples of how business have changed their business model based on customer feedback to really create a viral environment. As with all input, I suggest you incorporate those nuggets that you feel can really benefit your company based on the stage you're at and ignore the ones that you don't think fit. So let's start off with the product adoption curve. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about crossing the chasm. But it's surprising how many startups take a go-to-market approach of we need to hire some sales reps to pound the phones all day, and we need some marketing people to be pumping out mass mailers. This is the wrong approach when you're very early on in developing your company, because you really need to focus on innovators and early adopters. And they require a very specific message and a very specific go-to-market approach. So let's take a look at these two types. Let's start with the innovator. These are tech enthusiasts. They love cool. They love super innovation. They are very high risk takers when it comes to technology and will try anything they think is very cool technology and leading edge technology. They will provide you excellent business feedback, not just on your product, but also on your go-to-market strategy, your pricing, your target markets, and how you should build your company. Very valuable source for you. Now, in return, they expect to be able to use your product for free or at a very low cost. But I encourage you in the early days, I know everybody needs revenue, but what you need most of all is usage. So don't get too hung up about how much money you are able to receive from these early adopters. What you really want at this stage is usage. Now, the early adopters is the profile I think you should really focus on as you build your business. And the reasons being is they are still visionaries, but they are looking to solve a real business problem. And that is where you can really identify a repeatable sales model and a scalable business model. They're willing to work with MVP products, but it must work. They are not guinea pigs. They expect results. Their buying decision is not based on cool or leading edge. It's based on ROI and value. So you must demonstrate that through the process. Most importantly, they are a great source for case studies and quotes, which will help you dramatically as you move into the mass market and need to provide references on customers that have successfully adopted your technology. So how do you go about early adopter marketing? First of all, mass marketing messages are not effective. The product will not come across as unique. And that is what's very important to these early adopters. They are looking to gain a competitive edge. They want to be first. They want to use technology that's going to help them leapfrog their competitors, dramatically increase their revenue, and improve their business significantly faster than if they adopt the mainstream products. And that's where contextual marketing strategies come in. And this is why I think the early adopter group is the most valuable for you. And that's because they've already identified the business problem. They have a very clear definition of what's going wrong and what needs to get fixed. And they are actively looking for solutions to solve that problem. Now, you can chase SMB size companies for this, or in the enterprise accounts, my advice is go after the business units as opposed to the CIO team. With very, very large companies, you will find that they have a lot of requirements around cybersecurity, security, compliance, and things you may not have had a chance to really bake into your solution at this point or into your company. Whereas with the business units, they're looking to solve a problem. And if they can't find it from their traditional vendors, they are more than willing to look for young, innovative companies to solve that problem. And that can get you a toehold into these big accounts as you move from business unit to business unit. So how do you deploy these contextual targeting strategies? We talked about what a lot of people do is just hire salespeople to pound the phones, have marketing people send out mass mailers. Wrong approach. What you really need to identify is where these people are hanging out. And Kimberly's article talks about different Google searches you can do to find these locations. So understand what are their data, trusted data sources. Understand what forums they're in and what websites they hang out on. And you need to be active on those targeted platforms, not selling. You're asking for feedback. You're asking for advice. You're looking for them to give you some guidance. You want to engage them as a friendly to help your business. And that's why the founders have to be highly engaged in this activity as opposed to the salespeople. Salespeople just make people nervous that all they want to do is sell them something. Whereas with the founder, I'm talking to the CEO or I'm talking to the CTO, and they're trying to build the business and they're asking me to help them build their business. And I'm much more likely as an early adopter to engage with them than I am with a salesperson. This was a piece of research out of Kimberly's article that I thought was quite fascinating. Of all the social media platforms, Twitter is a very critical platform for you to be on. The reason being that it's 42% more likely that early adopters will be on Twitter versus any other social media platform. And likewise, 76% more likely for the tech influencers. So you need to be where they are, and Twitter is a very strategic platform for that. So when you look at these forums and these social media platforms, what is the value for them and the value for you? Well, with early adopters, they can very widely share their opinions on innovative technology. And this gives you the opportunity to build a viral reaction to your product. There's downsides though. Just like there's the possibility for very significant positive reviews, there's also the potential for some negative reviews. And it's very important that you do not get defensive if this happens. You need to engage. You need to explain, here's what you're planning for the product. Here's what you're planning for the business. You need to show people that you have a plan and that you are actively on this. And you need to show and demonstrate your progress because that's what they'll be watching for. And it's so important for founders to be engaged here because this is where you can really interact with a very broad audience very early in your product life cycle and in your business cycle. And you can do it en masse as opposed to trying to reach people by phone or by email, by instant message. These forums are critical as you gain your initial traction. So when you are interacting with the early adopters, how do you approach it? You really need to demonstrate value fast. As I said, they're trying to solve a business problem. Cool is expected. Leading innovation is expected. What is the value? Have you got it right? Do you solve their problem? And you need to offer some rewards to these early adopters to get them to spread the news. Kimberly talks about how Dropbox adjusted their business model based on customer feedback and created a very viral marketing initiative. Third, you need to listen and listen closely. You're here to learn. You think you understand what your product does, and that's great. But what you need to understand is how they think your product works, how they think it's going to solve a problem. The way they describe your product may be very different than the way you describe your product. The must-have features of your product may be very different than what you thought would be the must-have features of your product. Take this golden opportunity to let them talk and tell you about your product and about how they will use their product. And then, most importantly, demonstrate your listening. You need to keep these people up to date on your product plans, your progress, the next release coming out that is addressing some of the feedback you got. Show them that you are listening and you are engaging. So in summary, it's all about traction. Every startup struggles to get this going. You need to hire more people. You need to put new features in your product. You need to raise funding from investors. Every one of those comes back to traction, and you have limited resources, so you must focus. So don't go after that mass market right away. Go after those innovators and early adopters, and go after them with very targeted marketing efforts that speak to the uniqueness of the product, the leading edge of the product, how they can be first, how they can gain a competitive advantage, and how you have real value for them. And I can't stress enough how important it is for the founders to be engaged in these forums with early adopters as opposed to the sales and the marketing people. That will come as the early adopters embrace your product and look to deploy it. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us.